The lights, couldn't see me. Now we're set.
Good deal. Well, Pat Goldstein, thank you so much. Sherry Harbor, great to see you. And I saw a reference to Rob Drawn. I think we met him around the same time in 2004, back when he was a new attorney. And so you all have a wonderful group there, and glad to be a part of your meeting today. We are going to be talking about AI, but I want to put it out there before we get started that I'm not a tech guy per se. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be not for me because I'm not a tech person, well, you're in good company, because nor am I. So we're going to be talking about the very practical ways that we can all together use AI for our businesses today when you leave this meeting. So I do sell commercial real estate. Office, industrial, and retail are my specialties. And that leaves a few things that I do refer out to people on our team. And that's farmland, timberland, convenience stores, multifamily, things like that, that have real unique buyer bases and unique features that I always want to make sure we put with specialists. So while I'm not a tech guy, I am an adopter of productivity tools that make my business better. I'd like to think that if you adopt some of these things we're going to talk about today, that you'll find them, I think, to be revolutionary. And I really do mean that in your business. I didn't have a chance while the lights were still on to get a raise of hands on who is an current user of AI. We won't do that right now, but I'm going to maybe make an assumption that 30% of us in the room there are current AI users, and perhaps 70% of this may be somewhat new information. So we'll go with those odds. But we're going to start with a statement that I hope we can all agree with, and that is that I believe that a lot has changed since 2004. Why 2004? Well, that was the year we moved to Memphis, probably around the time when I met Lynn and Troy and Aaron. And but I think we can all agree that, holy cow, in 20 years, a lot has changed. Back in 2004, you may, if you were going down for dinner downtown, you may have gotten on MapQuest or gotten your handy map out and navigated your way down to the pier. Can everyone remember that restaurant?
Yeah.
And while on your way, you may have listened to your iPod in your car. Yes. Remember those devices that now, only short 20 years ago, we no longer see or use or places we frequent. If you had told some of our colleagues, even in our profession, that we used to send faxes, our TVs looked much different. We used to take photos with airplanes. When I first got into real estate, we had to rent an airplane down at the Olive Branch Airport, fly around properties with a camera and take photos. We also had to sign papers in person. You remember those days when you'd have to drive around town to access clients, and if they weren't in Memphis, you had a problem on your hands. You had to stick things in the mail, and you get it. So a lot has changed since 2004. If you had told our previous generation of commercial real estate brokers, even, or professionals, even in your field, I don't know about Santa Claus, but most other fields, that we would be measuring spaces like commercial real estate buildings with lasers, drawing as-built floor plans with our telephones, and now, instead of renting airplanes, we're using tiny drones to take photos of property. And I don't think that our colleagues would have believed us back in the day. I'd like to give us 3 observations that kind of set the stage for what we're talking about in AI. And these 3 observations, I think they really do lay the groundwork for some things that are a little unsettling. Number 1 is that there is a fundamental shift in technology. And if you've even been tracking this AI discussion for even the last 3 months, you would, I think, see that, holy cow, in 3 months, this whole discussion just keeps evolving and changing, and it's just this ever flowing river of information coming at us. Number 2, with that, there's also this temporary loss of equilibrium. And what I mean by that is we're all kind of feeling our way, like where's my place in all of this? What am I going to adopt? What am I going to use? I'm hearing my colleagues using this, and my friends are doing this, and so there's this temporary like, ooh. And then number three, something that I think we need to all just kind of remind ourselves is that the tools of the future look different. They're not necessarily always improved versions of the same things we used to be using. And I think AI is an example of that. You know, if this was 1981, you remember back to 1981 when you woke up too early on a Saturday morning and you went to go turn on the TV and you couldn't watch anything for a little while until the programming came on. And then if you were lucky in your area, you may have had this family that flew around in magic space cars, and when they wanted a lasagna, all that they had to do was push a button. Everybody remember that?
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was mesmerizing. And I feel like as wild as that was back in 1981, I think we're going to see here, I'd like to think we're going to see here in a minute that we're not too far off of that. And it's kind of come full circle. And we're going to talk about some examples of exactly why. So, AI specifically, a little bit of some definition for those that want to, one definition of many, but this would be one, and this is kind of the framework for what we're going to be talking about. AI leverages computers and machines to mimic the problem solving and decision making capabilities of the human mind. Now, before we go any further, some people say, well, how is Google and AI or Chat GPT, how are they related? How are they different? Because I can just go on Google and I can ask Google things, right? We can. We've been able to do that for a long time. But the difference, and this is something that if you were to just put in two buckets in your mind, searches online are largely for looking up information that's out there. AI, and especially in the context of what we're talking about today, is for creating things based on information that's out there. Does that make sense? It's a creative tool versus a looking up tool. So it's a lot more than that. That's an oversimplification, but that's kind of some framework also for today. So today we do want something to be meat and potatoes substantive. I would love for you to be able to walk out the door and be like, oh yeah, this was helpful. And that's what we're going to talk about 12 ways AI, I believe, today can revolutionize your business. Now, when we talk about AI in today's context, just for today, we are going to be talking about ChatGPT. And if you've been to seminars or classes on AI and they've gone this ChatGPT route, there's a reason for that, and that is because it's so easy to adopt. It's very easy for all of us today to go back to our offices and use this tool. And that's why I think it's such a good place to start if you're new to AI. And I'll tell you what my first introduction to AI was. This was about this time last year. It was through a GPT called DALL-E, and we all have to start somewhere, right? And so I was like, oh, this is cool, this AI thing. So I was sitting with one of my kids, and I was thinking, okay, I want to try this. I want to see what AI can do. So I said, draw a watercolor of a golden doodle dog in a canoe smoking a pipe on a Canadian lake, right? Simple enough. Let me see what AI can do. So it did it. It drew a watercolor. It created something from scratch. And then there was this frankly stupid looking dog smoking a pipe. And I was rather unimpressed. It was not the level that I was hoping for. All right. So I said, that's the basic idea, but instead of watercolor, I'd like this image to be photorealistic, because this was obviously subpar. And it came back with this.
Wow.
I thought, okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? Like if this is my first introduction, and I realize this has no application to business. Hear me out, I get it, but I had to start somewhere, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is something I can start to maybe understand a little bit more. So, we are going to be talking about 12 ways AI can revolutionize your business. And before we go any further, if you're taking notes, if you're going to be going back to your office and maybe looking at this a little bit further, I would recommend going here and doing this. And here's the 3 things. Go to chatgpt.com and set up an account. It'll be free. You can subscribe to the free version. The problem with staying there and using the free version is they're a little bit stingy on the bandwidth because this is such a popular hang on one second. Okay, I'm coming. Hang on one second.
Speaking of modern technology.
Yeah. There we go. Are we back?
We're seeing your email right now, Eric.
Are we back?
We're
What are
seeing
you all seeing?
an incognito tab. Okay, now we're seeing like your presentation, but not in presentation mode. There we go.
We up?
Yes, sir. Good.
Okay, good. The ad blocker wanted to receive its fee today, I guess. So here we are. Okay, we're back ready. We're back rolling. So they are a little bit tight on bandwidth for ChatGPT. And so if you're just, I would suggest that you pay the $20 fee a month for the premium access. It'll keep you happy with your usefulness of the tool. And then that'll give you, and then download the app. Get the app on your phone, and that's GPT 4.0, not to be confused with 4.0, but it's 4.0. So those would be my 3 recommendations practically to move forward with using this tool. So 12 ways AI can revolutionize your business. Here are 12 ways. We are not going to go through them in detail. Today, we're going to go through 5 of them just because of time. Plus, at the end, we're going to just
other languages.
play around and have a kind of a special bonus at the end. But let's just go through them really quick. Summarizing emails. We all receive in our businesses. Let's just say we are moving fast, but someone sent us a long email. We don't have time to read it. Cut and pasting that into GPT and say, hey, give me some bullet points. Give me the bullet points on what this email is telling me. It's a fun introductory way to try something with AI. We're going to do that in a second. You may be sitting there at your computer and like, man, how in the world? I know Joe doesn't have any problem with this, but sometimes I forget how to do an amortization table. I think that a professional like Joe, she probably just has them memorized. But man, have you ever had this mental block? Like, how do I do that formula in Excel for whatever the thing is? It's a great thing to get on ChatGPT and say, hey, what's the Excel formula for? Toning up and toning down. That's not Lois. It's LOI, is letters of intent. You know, we deal in a world, and I'm sure your business is the same. I was listening to our home healthcare professionals in the room, and you know, other professionals that have a service, maybe Service Master, where you're giving out proposals all the time. Well, I drafted a proposal recently. I gave it to a client. I said, hey, what do you think? Should we submit this proposal to the other side, the people on the other side of the transaction? And they said, I like it. They said, I like the sub. They said, but it sounds like it's worded like a contract. And man, we just want to try to tone that down, see if we can maybe friendly it up a little bit. So I stuck the thing into ChatGPT and I said, hey, can you friendly this up a little bit, soften the language? And it came back with a beautiful proposal. I was kind of blown away, like, this is strong. Social media posts, we're going to do some examples of that real quick. Descriptions, if you write descriptions of anything, whatever it is, give it a try. Signage, crazy, I know, but you remember the dog example, smoking a pipe on a Canadian lake. If you need a sign designed, and you can just say to ChatGPT, hey, draw me a sign that I can give to my sign guy. That's a fun way to speed things up. Floor planning we'll look at. We're going to do an example of that, even though it doesn't say example. Illustrations, if you're speaking, if you're doing have a speaking engagement and you need an illustration you've never seen before, but you need to create it from scratch. If we had time, I'd love to show you some crazy illustrations that it's done for me in speaking engagements, but we don't have the time for that. Data analysis. So if you let's just say, for example, you put in, maybe you have does everyone track their sales?
Yes.
Yes. I would venture to say we all track our sales. So let's just say we are all sitting here looking at a spreadsheet of our 2024 sales to date with all the data. We cut and pasted it and put it into AI, and we said, hey, what are my top 3 clients and where are their sources, and how can I reach them better? Or what are my best top 3 income streams? Where are those coming from? That's the kind of thing that this tool is going to kick back and say, hey, your top 3 sources of income are from this channel, and you need to go after it in this way. And here's a better way to do it. It's a wonderful way to analyze data. Prospecting scripts, that's kind of an easy peasy layup one. Explaining difficult concepts. So we're going to look at an example, a clause, a really difficult clause in commercial leasing. And my goodness, I don't understand it. I've been doing this for 20 years. And so I'm going to put it in ChatGPT and we're going to see what it gives us. And then helping with other languages. And I don't just mean the spoken languages, all right? So I'm referring to things even like web languages. So let's just say you're sitting there like, man, I would love to create a website that helps Troy sell vintage lures from the ones he buys at estate sales, right? So I'm going to go on a ChatGPT and I'm going to say, hey, my wife is a estate sale hop. She loves estate sales. We buy vintage lures all the time. Can you create for me a website? I need the HTML language that helps me sell these vintage lures. Pretty crazy. That's just plain English, right? So we're going to put it in there. Here's going to come all the HTML language. We cut and paste it into an HTML web designer, and you have a web page. We haven't had to do any programming. This was all the spoken word. Crazy sauce. So, all right. Plus, the extra bonus we'll talk about in a minute. Hopefully everybody's still hanging in there in the dark room of, I saw a scary person up by the window that was hanging up by the window that looked very scary, like a skeleton or something. All right, so here's some best practices. If you're new to this, these are some things, especially if you're new, and you'll see when we do some examples. I'm hoping the internet or the connection works okay. I did this live to a room full of, I don't know if it was like 500 people one time recently, and the connection wasn't good, and I was like, eh. Anyway, but here we go. So here's 5 best practices. Speak or type in a conversational manner. We're all used to using Siri, right? Where you say, hey, Siri, and then we get back some information that's not quite right, and we stop, we say, hey, oh, my Siri's going off. We say, hey, Siri, again, and we like repeat it. It's almost like Siri is it's not intelligent, right? The new one is, but and so this is different. We need to retrain ourselves. This is interacting like you would with a brilliant human assistant. Okay, so if you hired an intern and they were sitting at the table with you and you gave them an instruction and they came back with something you didn't like, you wouldn't say, hey, intern, do and repeat everything. You just say, hey, I like what you did, but I'd like to tweak it a little bit, right? You work with them. You kind of nurture the product that you're looking for. Number 3 is give context. So if we're going to give instructions to AI, we always have to give context, like, hey, I'm planning an event for it's a graduation party for my blah blah blah, and it's going to be held at a restaurant, but I need blah blah blah, blah. And you give it context so that the output is based upon what, you know, like it knows kind of, why am I giving you this information? All right. Describe the outlook or you're looking for. I want this result to be a sign, or I want it to be a bullet, or I want it to be a paragraph, or I want it to be bullet points. Number 5 is keep working until you're pleased with the results. Don't just give up and say, hey, this watercolor dog in a canoe you drew for me was stupid, and move on. You work with it and you keep adjusting. You get the point. So, all right. So we're going to use these superpowers. We're going to summarize a hard to understand email. And we're going to write 3 social media posts. And then we also need some sign ideas. So we're going to create a sign. And then we're going to do some floor planning. And then, yikes, I don't understand this paragraph. So we're going to start with number 5 first, because we're going to be running a test to see how this is going to work. So I'm going to... Yep.
Just quickly, I've been informed we have 3 minutes for you to kind of wrap things up, sir.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the static pre-done ones. I'm going to skip to one. All right. We need signage ideas. So this is the exact input into. We're going to do a couple of these examples. A commercial real estate broker, I'm having a hard time leasing up a few office spaces. They happen to be on Timber Creek. If you go to Timber Creek near the Agri Center, you'll see the signs. I need to create a special sign that attaches to my for lease sign. The special sign would be advertising too much free rent. I want it to be shaped like a burst. I want the color to be bright orange or yellow. Can you give me a few samples? And here you go. Now that didn't take me very long. I'm not a graphic designer. And if you go right now to Timber Creek and drive by these signs, you'll see them. This was a fun one. Create the best office floor plan for 20 people, including a break room, collaboration space, and 2 large office executive offices. It said, here's what I'm going to give you. Okay. It said, here's what I understand you need. And then it gave me these. Now, am I a designer? Am I going to go with that or build out these spaces? No. But I'm going to sit down with my client. I'm going to say, is this what you're thinking? Right? Kind of helpful. I don't understand this paragraph. This is called waiver of subrogation. It's a really detailed lease paragraph in a commercial lease. And oh my goodness, it's hard to understand. We're not going to do it live. So it gives me this example, and this is still too hard for me to understand. So I said, hey, explain it to me. See at the top, like I'm a 5th grader. Can you help me explain this to a 5th grader? If someone gets in the tree, if something in the treehouse gets damaged and your friend promises not to blame each other or ask each other to pay for the damage, it goes through and it describes it as if we were talking to a 5th grader. All right, we're not going to do a ChatGPT 4.0 assistant, but if you have a chance, get the app and talk to this assistant and plan an event for anywhere in the country or world and say, I want an itinerary from this time to this time. It'll blow your mind. Here's the one that it did for me in Memphis. And I even said, hey, I want to know when I get to Sun Studios with this client, what should I look for? And it gave me an exact point on the floor to stand to listen to where Elvis recorded his first song. So pretty crazy. All right, I'm going to wrap there. So the conclusion for all of us is I'd like to think we're a lot closer to the Jetsons than we were even 1 year ago. And I'd like to think that these are some things we can use today. Hopefully I've given you enough to where your taste was primed to where you can kind of have an idea how to navigate. I love this quote: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I think that's where we're at today. So thanks so much for letting me share. There's my contact information. If I can ever help you or a friend or client with their commercial real estate, I'd love to do it.